Okay. I am going to start. Just a quick intro. So I want to thank everyone for joining today. This session, we're going to talk about driver rehab and cerebral palsy. It'll be an hour-long session, and we're going to have 3 of our certified driver rehab specialists from Driver Rehab Center of Excellence. It's a lot of words, so DRCE, and 3 individuals with experiences to discuss the challenges, strategies, and successes of driver rehab for people with CP. So at DRCE, just a quick little background, we specialize in comprehensive driver rehab services to help individuals with disabilities gain or regain the ability to drive safely and independently. Our team of certified driver rehab specialists and occupational therapists work closely with clients to assess, train, and equip them with the adaptive tools and techniques needed for successful driving. So in this discussion, it'll be divided into 3 segments, each featuring a certified driver rehab specialist and their client who has navigated the journey of learning to drive with CP. Just a quick note for any therapists that are joining us today, this session is for informational purposes only and does not constitute for any CEUs. I just kind of had to throw that in there. We encourage everyone to utilize the chat feature to submit questions throughout the session. And then the last 15 minutes will provide the opportunity to address your questions and then answer them. So today you're going to hear from Jennifer and Bella, and then Trista and John, and Amanda and Reagan. So with that, I'm going to pass it along to Jennifer. Let me stop showing this, and I will pin Jennifer and Bella. There you go.
There she is. All right, awesome. Thank you, Bella, for agreeing to participate and to join me today. I greatly appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So I am going to, in the next 15 minutes, touch on some of the barriers that Bella faced as an under 18 age-year-old driver, her thoughts on adaptive equipment and the training process in general, and how driving rehab and adaptive equipment helped her to become an independent and successful driver. And if we have time at the end of that, have Bella offer some advice that she might have for other drivers with cerebral palsy. And if not, if we don't have time at the end of the 15 minutes, there will be time at the end of everybody's discussions that you guys can ask Bella questions as well. So first of all, I'm Jennifer Bachelor. I have been an occupational therapist since 1996, graduating from the Ohio State University. I joined the, hey, John, what is all that about? Goodness gracious. I joined DRCE as a driver rehabilitation specialist, or also known as a DRS, in October of 2022. And then I got my certification as a CDRS last fall. I am currently the regional director for driver rehab DRCE's Columbus office in Ohio. It's in Westerville. And also for our West Virginia division that is based primarily out of the Charleston area. So with me today, I have Bella Beaver. She is a 19-year-old from, and Bella, please correct me if anything I say is wrong. This is a live event, so you guys are getting the real deal here. So she's from Elkview, West Virginia. She is now a freshman at Davis and Elkins College in Elkins, West Virginia. That's about 2 hours from her home. And she is studying psychology and political science and is on track to graduate a year early, which is amazing. So congratulations to you on that.
Thank you.
She also works as a videographer for the college soccer team for their practices. So she's quite a busy young lady. She has cerebral palsy, and the type of her cerebral palsy is considered mixed cerebral palsy, or also known as MCP. So with MCP, it's a combination of symptoms from different types of CP. So these can include muscle stiffness, involuntary tremors, or balance and coordination difficulties. So Bella, do any of those describe some of the things that you deal with?
Yeah, I'd say they all kind of hit the mark.
Okay. So, and before we get into this, how often do you drive now, Bella?
I drive like every day, I'd say. Yeah, my college is not very walkable. So
Yeah. Well, and especially when you have some problems with your balance and coordination. So, so I guess how can you imagine your life right now without having a driver's license?
a lot of the kids here don't have cars, and they always complain because they can't go to Walmart and stuff. So it would just be kind of suck not being able to go pick up toothpaste if I needed it.
Yeah. So it's a pretty important part of your life, I would imagine.
Yeah, I definitely drive.
And probably your friends' lives too, because they're probably asking you for rides a lot.
Yeah, we have a large foreign population, so everybody's always looking for rides.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you can help them out some. So, so Bella started her process of getting her license at age 15 and a half, just like any, typical kid does. Again, she's in West Virginia, so some rules are a little bit different, but in West Virginia, I believe it's 15 and a half that you can get your learner's permit. So Bella, I wanted you to explain a little bit after you got your permit and you began practicing driving with your parents. How did those first couple months go?
Yeah, so we would go practice driving, and it would just not go well. Like, my mom was a very anxious teacher, first off, and then I was just not a very coordinated driver. And I was just like too quick on the brake, too fast on the gas. So every time we would practice, it would end up in like tears and like it would just be like rough. But then we would say, okay, we'll try again. But then we wouldn't try again for like a month. Okay. So it's a very slow process.
So sounds like some frustrations there as well. So at that time, did you relate any of those difficulties to any of your symptoms from CP?
No, I think I was just thinking I was a bad driver. I was just like,
right.
I thought I just needed to practice more.
Sure. And at that time, were there any concerns about whether or not you would be successful and get your driver's license?
I don't think for my parents, no, but I guess like in the back of my head, I was like, oh.
You were kind of thinking, okay.
Yeah, it was just not going well.
Sure. So I think the next thing that happened was Bella's mom found a driver rehabilitation specialist in West Virginia, and driving rehabilitation specialists aren't very easy to find in general. West Virginia is even probably more difficult than other areas. So they were able to find somebody. And so Bella, at that time, you were evaluated, and I believe the evaluator mentioned that maybe a left foot accelerator would be something that could help you. Is that correct?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. And prior to that, were you aware of any other options or equipment to help you with driving?
No, I was not really thinking about it at all until I went to that meeting. Okay.
So what did you think about that? Maybe driving with different types of equipment in your car?
I say overall that meeting was really overwhelming for me. Just because I went on a drive with this guy I didn't know. I wasn't very comfortable with him, and yeah, he was a little harsh. But then when you mentioned the left foot pedal, I think I might have even cried because I was like, it was just I wasn't expecting to need any modifications.
Sure,
But then,
sure.
after we left that meeting, I don't know what happened. He like retired or something, and we didn't hear from him for like months. And then they ended up, I don't even know what happened, but I never went back there.
Okay. So we kind of have Bella's barrier one was that she was having problems initially with driving with her parents and kind of wasn't sure what to do. Barrier two, we had more time delay. She lost contact with the driver rehabilitation specialist that they had found. So here's Bella at age 15 and a half. All she wanted to do was get her license. And what age were you hoping to get your license by at that point?
I mean, I guess probably around my 16th birthday, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure. Of course. And why wouldn't you want that? So next on Bella's journey, she came to DRCE through West Virginia's Division of Rehabilitation Services, which is their vocational rehab program. We have a couple of them on this meeting, so thank you all for joining us. So at that time, she was seen for a second evaluation by a driver rehabilitation specialist and began training with us late November, early December of 2022. So at that time, she was 16. And do you remember the beginning of that? How were you feeling about the second evaluation and beginning training with a new program? How was your thought process at this time?
Yeah, I was very nervous because, like I said, I didn't really enjoy my first experience.
Well, and I mean, Tammy Phipps can make anybody nervous, and that's who evaluated you.
And I think that was when we had to go down to the hotel in Canal City.
Yep, and there was that.
Yeah, and so I was like, what is this? Because my mom was like, yeah, we're going to a hotel. And then we went to like the sketchy part of Canal City into this hotel.
Bella, you don't have to tell all the details.
Yeah, I was like looking at my mom. I was like, what are we doing here?
So part of the downfall with our West Virginia coverage is we typically, our office is the hotel. So we don't have a facility in West Virginia. So we're doing a lot of traveling there. So, but yeah, Bella, now that we've gotten through all this, you know that you were one of the drivers, which I'm glad you didn't know at the time. But and then so some of the reasons that you were kind of against adaptive equipment in the beginning too. Yeah, thank you, Brandy, for sharing that. Brandy put up a picture of Bella and I together when she first got her license, and then also the equipment that Bella is using now to drive. That is not Bella's ugly foot in the picture. That is mine. That has had surgery multiple times. So full disclosure there. And I know I'm getting to the end of our 15 minutes, so I'm going to kind of talk a little more than what I thought instead of Bella. But I wanted to touch on the reasons that you were kind of not wanting adaptive equipment. There was the time investment, time involvement. You knew that would make things stretch out even further. And again, correct me if any of these are wrong. You didn't want to be different from your peers, from other aged peers that were driving without equipment. There was another student from Bella's class, and they knew that they were each working with us. She also had CP, and she didn't have adaptive equipment. So why should Bella have to have adaptive equipment? And then there was also some input from your family, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think all of those were like factors into why I was a little hesitant. But and then again the cost.
Right.
Which the state covered the first installation.
Yeah.
But
Yes. Yes.
just
So
like
thankfully, yes.
thinking about having to get a new car in the future, I'm like, oh man.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff to think about. But when I was the main person that was working with Bella for her training, and in those initial treatments, I noticed that she would get stiffness in her right arm, which was her dominant arm. She would have some spasming sometimes. I also saw that she was having tremors in her hands, the right hand more than the left hand. There were also gross motor coordination concerns with her right leg and her right arm in general. So not only was she having problems with her feet on the regular pedals, but she was having trouble steering with both hands because her right arm didn't always want to do what the left arm wanted to do. So, so Bella, explain the eye opener. Explain what kind of made the difference for you being open to adaptive equipment.
Yeah, so at first when they were talking about adaptive equipment, I was kind of like, I don't know why I would need this. I was a little hesitant, but then Jennifer did this practice with me, I guess, with where you take your foot and you like tap it and you like go like up and then over. And I did it with my right foot and then I did it with my left foot, and it was like so much easier with my left foot compared to my right.
Yeah.
And so then it was like, oh, that actually does make sense. Because before that, I was just like, well, I don't know if my left foot pedal would change, but then yeah. I saw the vision then.
Good. So her eyes were opened a little bit. So what I did was, why not sit on the side of, okay, there's my 15 minutes. So we were in an empty church parking lot, and I had you sit on the side of the passenger seat in the parking lot, did a modified alternating foot tap test. So with Bella's right leg, she did it in 6.11 seconds. And with her left leg, she did it in 4.69 seconds. And it was a lot easier for her as well. So what we did, we ended up training with the left foot accelerator. She also needed a spinner knob, and we tried a lot of positions and types, and the single pin spinner knob at the 11 o'clock position is what worked best with her grasp and just with her steering ability. And then also the turn signal crossover was what worked best for the secondary control for turn signals. Bella got her license in November of 23. So it took her from age 15 and a half to age 18, but she was successful. She is driving everywhere now. So Bella, looking back at the whole process, what do you think?
It's crazy looking back because I always forget like how long of a process it was and like all the specific obstacles. Because now I just don't even think about it. I'm like, yeah, I have my driver's license. Oh, I'm so sorry. But yeah, it was definitely a lot of patience went into it. So I'm glad I stuck with it though and didn't give up because now I can drive.
Yes, and we are happy that worked out as well. So so at the end of the segment, if anybody has any questions for Bella or myself, we would be happy to take those. Thank you so much, Bella.
Thank you guys.
All right, I think Amanda or Trista, who's up next?
I think it's me and John.
Oh gosh, John.
All right. I think Brandy is in the process of pinning us, but go ahead. My name's Trista. I'm a occupational therapy assistant, certified driver rehab specialist. I've been with DRCE since 2018. And I have to be honest, John, I don't think I actually got in the car with you at all.
You did.
I
one
did?
time.
Okay. I couldn't remember. Okay. So we have to address the elephant in the room, John. You were the most sought after client to work with at DRCE at the time. We have a full staff here of therapists, and John came. Yeah, you guys can see Amanda dancing in her little square down there. I think Amanda did the bulk of John's training, but since Amanda also had Reagan, I stepped in here to have the honor of sitting with John.
Number one fan.
So, John, how old were you when you first came to us?
I think I was 16. I was 16.
16. Okay. And can you tell everybody you are the youngest of how many?
I'm the youngest of 7.
7.
So-
Okay. I think I might have said 6 somewhere. And do any of your siblings use adaptive equipment to drive?
No, they all use regular.
They're
They
all
all drive regularly. So.
they're all typical drivers. So when you guys came to us, it was not the same way that your parents taught your other 6 siblings to drive.
Yeah, no, they were not. They had no idea like where to start. Even they
Yeah.
kind of just. They
And
were.
how did you guys determine that this was likely the path that you're going to take to have to seek out adaptive equipment?
Well, I think I was born with CP and my legs don't work really well in terms of being able to use pedals for driving. So it was kind of from the beginning like we were gonna have to find a way. So it was always in the cards. We just didn't know quite how to get there until we found you guys.
Yeah. So John is located here in Virginia, because I know we have some other states. So Virginia does the classroom portion. But John, how did your school react to, like, did most of your classmates, were they able to take typical driver's ed in school?
Yeah, they took typical driver's ed, pretty normal, everything like that. And that's why when I told them like that I was doing it too and with you guys, they just couldn't believe it. They were in shock. So that was kind of fun.
And we have learned, unfortunately, that because not all schools and driver's ed programs are educated, they just encourage some people to wait until they're over the age of 18 so that you don't have to meet the Virginia novice driver requirements. And why didn't you want to wait until 18, John?
Because all my friends, they were going to be driving and I was already in my family the last person to drive. I wasn't going to wait I didn't want to wait any longer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was motivated to get it done.
Yeah. And you wanted to be able to drive, was it for your senior year to school?
Yep. Yeah, for school and with friends and yeah, everything.
Yeah. So I think we knew very early on John was going to need adaptive equipment, likely a hand control. It was pretty straightforward given your barriers as far as that goes. Simple hand control and spinner knob. But what we learned about John is an athlete. And actually, Brandy, if you want to throw up the picture of John and Tammy, John plays sled hockey. And one of the big barriers we discussed was John being able to be independent, not only with driving, but with his vehicle to load his equipment. So John, when you go play sled hockey, you have to take that sled with you, right?
That's right. Yep.
And load it in and out of the cargo area.
In and out of the cargo. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. So one of the big things that we started early on, so we knew John was going to need a hand control. John was likely going to be able to drive and pass his driver's test. But where we really started to hone our focus in was finding the right vehicle for John. So when you were going to be going to and from school, what all equipment, what mobility devices were you going to be taking with you?
Mainly my wheelchair and then my crutches.
And is that the
And-
wheelchair we see in the picture there with you?
Yes,
Okay. And you wanted to be able to be independent, loading it in and out of the car,
yep,
and then walk using the car for support from the cargo area to the driver's seat.
that's right.
So we really focused a lot of our time while training, but also on looking for that right vehicle. And there was a unique situation in which we knew someone selling a vehicle. We introduced them to John and his family, and it ended up working out that specific vehicle for you. And then, did you do a right side hand control or left side? Because I know we kept going back and forth.
I did the left side.
The left side. What do you drive with now?
I do left side now.
Left side still. Okay. Because we initially trained you on a right side.
That's right.
And how was that like switching from one to the other?
I think I remember doing the right side, and there was no, especially as I knew that I was going to be driving for longer periods of time, there was no place to really rest my arm. So I decided to do the left side, mainly too because I wanted to make sure that my dominant right hand was going to be doing the steering portion, but then also that I was able to rest my left arm on the side of the door when using the hand control.
Yeah. And then, so you did training with Amanda and another therapist that worked here at the time. You took and passed your driver's test.
That's
And
right.
How old were you when you got licensed? You were still 17?
I was 17. Yep.
Stuck it to the man.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And also in Virginia, we can apply for a special permit, and you were able to do some training with your parents, right? They were able to take over some of the training. We trained the parents on the adaptive equipment. Again, specialized permit in Virginia. We looked at all of the stipulations there to learn how to do that, and so that John can meet his minimum hours for the Virginia novice driver. Then, unfortunately, something happened to the vehicle. It was in a collision, that first vehicle. Not John's fault. You weren't even in it, right?
I wasn't driving it, no.
That was a family member. How did you go about then picking your next vehicle?
So it was definitely, well, I remember being, first of all, making sure and happy that my family member was okay. But I remember being frustrated because I knew that it was going to take a really long time, extra time to find a vehicle. And I remember talking to you guys and just trying to figure that out. And you guys eventually were like, the Subaru Forester, because it was, first off, it has all-wheel drive, so it can go anywhere. So like you're not going to get stranded, and that thing is a beast. So you're not going to get stranded using it. And then it had enough space where the hand control in the cockpit, at least, it wasn't going to like create major issues. And then most importantly, it was a hatchback, so it could fit and the seats would go down. So then I would be able to slide in my wheelchair and my sled hockey bag and everything. So I just remember that always taking that. And then we immediately went looking for a Subaru Forester just because it just fit everything that I needed in my life at that point and still now. So
John attends. Well, I'll let you tell everybody where you're at now and what you're doing.
So I'm a freshman at Virginia Tech. I'm the fifth of my seven siblings, or six older siblings to come, or fifth of seven to come here. And so we're a family of Hokies. I'm studying management, consulting, and analytics. And I'm a freshman, but right now I'm working towards graduating a year early. So I'm really excited about that. And then, yeah. So
And are you able to have your car at college or not right now?
Not at this moment, no. Just because Tech is a very walkable campus, so I just use my chair, and then that way going up and down 81 which is a horrible, in my opinion, horrible highway, that my car doesn't get wear and tear on 81 like every few months. And it's a 4-hour drive from here to Manassas, where I live. So we're just kind of protecting the car, but then also allowing me to get the campus experience too. So it's
Yeah.
good.
So what were your highlights of learning how to drive, or what do you remember going through the whole process?
I think honestly, just the fact that I would leave school and then I would go and drive with Amanda. And as we were driving, we would talk about life and everything. And I remember telling her specifically just how in shock everybody was at my high school. You know, that there's this kid in a wheelchair who's driving. Like, this doesn't make any sense. And even teachers would come up to me, even when I started driving with my parents later, like when I would practice driving to school and I would get out of the car, they would say, "You drive?" I had no idea. And it would be, so I think that was just the most memorable moment. And then, of course, getting to tell younger children who have disabilities. There's actually a kid on my street who has cerebral palsy. And I had his parents come down to our house and I showed him my hand controls and I was like, it's possible. So I think those are the most memorable moments.
Yeah. So there weren't, at that time, there weren't any other wheelchair users at your school who would have been potentially driving?
No. It was a very, very small school. So I was the only one.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they remember for any future students.
Yes.
And then I have to ask one last question. Did you
Sure.
drive to prom?
I did drive to prom.
Because your mom shared your promposal with us.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure you drove to prom.
Yes, I did drive to prom. It was pretty exciting. Yeah, everyone, I had some aviators too, and I opened up the sunroof of the Subaru, and put on some country music. So it was like a total vibe.
And did you really think maybe freshman or sophomore year, like you're gonna like be able to drive to prom?
No, I didn't. I thought it was going to be the classic going over to the parents' house and having to sit in the back seat. It's like really awkward. So glad that didn't have to happen.
So that's so exciting. That's probably, you'll remember that milestone for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. I think so. We're just about at the end of our, anything else you want to add for your driving journey?
I don't think so. I think it's just it's amazing that it's still happening. So it's still hard to believe.
And are you still playing sled hockey? Have you been able to find a league to be in?
Not as much anymore. I still skate every now and then, but I got a call from my old teammate and he said, "We need somebody. Are you in?" And sometimes I'm able to say yes. Sometimes I have to say no. But I think after college is when I'll be able to travel whenever I want, really. So then I'll be able to do it a little bit.
And I would encourage everyone in this meeting, if you can find your local sled hockey team, tournament, whatever, it is an amazing sport to go watch. It is just as aggressive as stand-up hockey. And it's really, I'm a fan. So.
Yeah, Trista would know I'm not very friendly on the ice.
No,
Right.
it's brutal.
Yeah.
Hard to see. Sweet John out there just people right and left.
That's right.
All right, we will pass it over
Great.
to Amanda and Reagan now.
I just want to say one thing. Thank you, John, for making me cry. But yes, no, that was great. I loved it.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All right, so John, stick around because then we'll open it up for more questions at the end.
Of course.
Oh, thank you guys. Oh, John, it was nice hearing your story, and it's been a while, but nice to hear you're doing well. All right, so I'm going to kind of take it over. So my name's Amanda. I'm a certified occupational therapy assistant. license, and then as well as a CDRS, or Certified Driver Rehab Specialist. I've been with DRCE now for a little over 3 years, and I've more so started specializing in the area of the autism community. So I work mainly with our clients with intellectual disabilities and clients on the spectrum, helping them get licensed and even determining whether or not it's appropriate for them or they have the potential to pursue driving. So that is actually how Reagan and I met. She came to us, and I'll let her kind of touch on some challenges she faced in her journey, and then, you know, how she came to DRCE. But I first met her when we did what's called a potential to drive evaluation. So this was before she got her learner's permit in the state of Virginia. And her and her mother, her family were seeking us out to see and explore the options when it comes to driving. They were curious about, the needs for auto adaptive equipment, or how she was going to drive, typically versus not, and, what the options are, and then kind of what the process is and the next steps too. So one of our jobs as a CDRS is to be knowledgeable of your state licensure requirements, and what does that process look like for someone that may have a physical limitation or an intellectual disability. So anything really impacting your driving, right? And then each state is very different. What that process looks like in Virginia versus Ohio. Don't ask me about Ohio's processes. Jennifer, I'll leave that to you. But Virginia, I'm well versed in. So I would say to start there, really, if you're, wondering or questioning, how does this look for me? I would say to explore the DMV website. And then as well as seek out a CDRS. And the list of CDRS providers can be found on the DMV website, as well as ADED.net, ADED.net. So that's our organization for driver rehab specialists. So I would say, Reagan first came to me it was August 2024, and we did that potential to drive assessment. So we did a clinical assessment. We did a lot of standardized, items looking at different skills necessary for driving. So we did some reaction time testing, some cognition testing, attention testing. We did a vision screen. And then I saw her in the vehicle to go ahead and screen for that need of auto adaptive equipment, but she didn't have her permit yet. So I did recommend, everything was great. She rocked it. I think she had the best reaction time on our Dynavision board I've ever seen. And so I recommended that she come back and do a behind the wheel assessment when she obtained her learner's permit. So then I did see her again in December of 2024 for the behind the wheel assessment. And I determined she didn't really need auto adaptive equipment. She was able to access and manage secondary functions in the vehicle, such as the turn signals, windshield wipers, horns, stuff like that, without the need for adaptations, as well as driving with the gas and brake typically. So I'll kind of let Reagan introduce herself, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you. Yeah, I am Reagan. I am a sophomore here in Virginia, and I have left-sided hemiplegia. And before I found DRCE, I was nervous because I really wanted to drive, because all my friends are starting to talk about their permits. They're talking about yeah, I got to practice today. And I was nervous because I was not sure what I was able to do and what I wasn't able to do. And my main worry was when I started to get my permit, I wasn't able to click the turn signal with my left hand. I couldn't go through the steering wheel with my right hand to click it. So I had to go over and click it with my right hand. And I was nervous because I wasn't sure if I was going to need adaptive equipment. And yeah, I was really excited to get my permit. It's really fun driving, and DRC has helped me a lot learn how to adapt to how to use my vehicle, because both vehicles are different. I was able to do my turn signal with my left hand in my dad's car, but I wasn't able to in my mom's car. So it was just trying to figure out how to adapt to everything.
And then you also play a sport too, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am a lacrosse goalie. I've been playing I've been playing lacrosse since preschool, like since I could walk. And I started goalie when I was in 3rd grade, figuring out that it was a lot easier to play goalie because you didn't have to switch over to your left side as much, and it wasn't as much usage of the left side. You mainly just work with your dominant side as a goalie. So I am a goalie for lacrosse. I play for my high school team and I play for a travel team. And I'm starting to look at colleges to hopefully play. But yeah, so.
Maybe Virginia Tech. John can show you the ropes. Okay, yeah, I would say, and that probably attests to how and why she kicked butt at our reaction time testing. Okay, and then you're how old, Reagan?
I'm 15, almost 16.
Okay, so yes, Reagan she'll be able to test for licensure come like near the end of the year.
Yeah,
last
I
quarter.
think I get my September I can get my license.
Okay, so and then you did and I know we kind of touched on like the graduated licensing for the state of Virginia and the requirements when you're under 18, they look a little different. So you did the classroom portion of driver's ed, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just finished.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. And then, so has anyone talked to you about what the behind the wheel component could look like for you?
My teacher did. He kind of talked about it a little bit, but he didn't talk about it for people with like disabilities and stuff. He talked about how you have to obviously be 16 in 3 months. And yeah, so he touched on it a little bit, but he didn't really go too deep into it considering it was about the permit part, like getting your permit. He mainly talked about that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's so since I work too with the more novice population and seeking out the requirements for licensure, I see that a lot. I think it's a systemic breakdown and barrier that we face. And I say we as I'm going through it, but I'm like going through the journey with you guys. But I can't imagine, the challenges that you guys are facing. But that is an often, item that I hear of as a barrier, is that behind the wheel component for someone that has a medical condition that impacts driving. And I've heard, and it's really different, based off of like what county you're in, and then state too. So some schools have a contracted behind the wheel person for driver's ed. Some, have their own. So it really depends. But I've heard a lot of times, like, again, that you just have to wait. Like, oh, we can't accommodate if you have, hemiplegia or, like if you only have one side of your body working and they have a typical vehicle not modified with auto adaptive equipment, then what? So I think that is a very big breakdown. And I know we're trying to fill that gap. But also it's about increasing that awareness and like having people know that we even exist. So I think Reagan and then her mom found our information on the DMV website as a list of providers.
Yep.
Yeah.
I found it through the DMV.
Okay. But initially she was reported to the DMV by her physician, right? So Reagan came to me to be assessed and determined she was fine to drive typically in her vehicle and her setup. However, the physician had already reported her diagnosis to the DMV. So she is currently under what's called the medical review process in the state of Virginia. So regardless of the fact that she's driving typically, she'll still have to go through and test with a medical examiner with the DMV, just like John did. So that looks a little different, right, for everyone. And I think that's exactly what we're highlighting today. Okay, so I would say, what are some of the challenges, I guess, and gaps in behind the wheel training? Were you kind of on track with your peers there?
I mean, it's been a really complicated process trying to get my license, but we not only needed forms from the neurologist, but we also need other ones from the DMV, and we were going back and forth figuring out what to do next and go step by step because we can't skip steps. We have to go exactly. And it's obviously going to take me, it might take me a little bit longer than other people that already have their license or are getting their license around the same time as me, because they don't have to figure out like how to get around like the medical barriers that I have. And so it might take a little bit longer, but
Yeah. And you guys were, I think you're a good example of like someone who's being proactive in the process and seeking us out. You know, oftentimes I'll see people later on in their driving journey who, you know, were not on par with their peers. And that's like it's like a rite of passage, right? You get a cell phone, you get to drive, and you know, you get to start dating, you know, all the things. You graduate from high school, go to college. It's like a rite of passage. So I think and that has a big impact, I think, on your mental health and right, like quality of life. So I think you were a good example of someone who was being proactive with the process. So you're going to be more on track with your peers. I oftentimes see like the flip side of that coin and the people who, oh my gosh, thanks, Brandy.
You're welcome.
Oh yes. So Reagan also, I guess we'll get to that too. Let's see. All right. So so far, I guess, what are your key takeaways or like something you would want to understand more or pass along?
I feel like once I found DRC, it was very like I understood better like what I had to do to get my license and what I needed to do to figure out how to drive. I wish I found you guys earlier, so that's like a big like thing that I want everyone to know. I wish I found them earlier, because you guys like helped me figure out the process really easily, rather than like make it all jumbled and complicated. I definitely now have more confidence to drive. I feel more confident when I'm on the road, just knowing like how I can like maneuver myself around the vehicle. And I would definitely like give yourself time figuring out how to drive safely. I mean, it's difficult. And yeah, and just like the process. I mean,
the DMV, you know, they have the information. So each state, right, has that information on the website. But it's not always the clearest. And Virginia is what's called a self-report state. So if you have a medical condition impacting your driving, you do not have to report it. Other states are what's called mandatory, where you would have to report that condition. So it's a lot of it's a little unclear, but I think that's a benefit of seeing us, and you know, we walk people through that process and help them understand it a little more clearly. So it makes more sense. So I also want to highlight, and I think that's what Brandy pulled up here. Reagan and I did an interview for her YouTube channel. And so do you want to elaborate a little bit more about your role in the CP community and then the advocacy?
Yeah. I started my YouTube channel about, 2.5 years ago. I started it to help kids like me who have trouble figuring out how to do things. And since we've been working a lot with like driving, we've done a lot of videos on like how to drive. So we interviewed Amanda and like to figure out more insight so that people just like me can figure out the process, and we can make it more like step by step so it's easier to understand. And I have to also help with other things like necklaces. I also help with hair, like just like tons of different things, even like cutting bagels. Like I did a video on bagel cutting, like just like simple things that people
like life hacks,
right? Things that people wouldn't regularly think that we have to do differently. I also do live video chats with kids like me who also like, so they can talk to me about it, so I can go more in depth rather than a 10-minute video. I also do book readings at like my elementary school that I went to. I also went to different elementary schools and read the book, just so that people not only with CP, but people without CP can understand what it's like to have it. And I started my YouTube channel to help, you know, kids like me who need help understanding.
Yeah. And I think that's very important. Like as much as we can increase the awareness and just, you know, in your personal experiences is helping others. And so that maybe, you know, someone else that's pursuing this process that's a little younger than you right now, when they get to this stage, you know, they're already ahead of the curve and able to kind of stay on that track and be, you know, age appropriate, you know, ADLs, daily activities. So or driving IADL. So I think that's great that you're doing that. And it was an honor, and thank you for having me too. So Brandy had shared that. I think we're going to share her link, Brandy.
Yeah, I shared it in the chat. So if everybody has access to the chat, the link to her YouTube page is in there, so you guys can check it out. There was, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I say, John, maybe you can even do an interview on her channel too, because so Reagan does a lot of tips and life hacks for before, I guess, for like the younger population too, but I think it would be good too for like a transition post-secondary to post-secondary type education too, and what that looks like.
For sure. Yeah. I want to start. The reason I'm trying to graduate early is because I'm writing a book right now. So, and I'm trying to do like a podcast, stuff like that. So very similar things. So yeah, I'd gladly do it. Take some notes for myself, try and figure it out. Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else you want to add, Reagan?
I don't think so. Thank you guys.
Yeah, I was saying, if you guys have any questions, post in the chat there. Brandy, we'll give it back to you.
Yeah, so there was a question earlier, and I think this one was for Bella and Jennifer, about how many lessons or assessment sessions did it take? I don't know, Bella, do you remember how many sessions, or Jennifer?
I had actually, for some reason I had added that up beforehand. So her journey with us was about a 16-month process. 9 months of those were waiting for adaptive equipment to be installed in her vehicle and vehicle changes and things like that. So there was a time lapse there that we were waiting. So we had about 30 to 35 hours total of training with her. So with our West Virginia clients, we typically are only able to get there once or twice a month. So when we went monthly, we would try to kind of cluster some visits together. So I would try to see her, a couple times, 2 or 3 times every month. So about 35 hours total.
I have a question for Bella. So when you first started driving with your mom, I believe you said, you were just driving with the, standard right side accelerator pedal. When you had to switch over and start using the left side pedal, how long did it take you to like really kind of switch that? I don't know.
So
that memory of using.
Yeah, luckily I didn't have a lot of driving time on my right side just because the driving did not go well. But yeah, it did take a while to get used to the left foot. It definitely took a while for me to remember to press the button to turn on the left foot pedal when I did get my license, because half the time I'm turning on my car and turning it back on. But yeah, it was a process, but it didn't take too long though, because I was not very used to driving with my right foot either.
Okay.
That was kind of part of the process and the difficulties too, Brandy, because when she was under 18, she needed 60 driving hours to get her to be eligible to take her licensing test. Mm-hmm. And so she probably wasn't very happy with us when we told her we did not want her getting additional hours when we weren't there driving their vehicles that didn't have adaptive equipment. So that was another barrier that lengthened the process, but she did well.
Dan had a question. I'll let you ask Dan since
Sure. I'm just curious. A lot of the CP clients with CP I've seen have a lot of visual perception issues, and I didn't see that as an issue with any of you. But did you see that with any of these 3?
Bella did not have any of those issues.
Actually, interestingly, it was like a eye test that I took it was like a local eye test that I took. And early on when I was taking it, either the doctor doing the test was wrong, or I did have visual perception issues. Like my peripheral vision wasn't very, very good. And I think I think Amanda, did we notice that? Yeah. And so when we did that, I remember you saying like, just work on it. And I remember now it's developed. So it took time to develop over time. And it took time, but now I don't like have it as much anymore. It just like, it was weird. Now it's non-existent. So if there's any other thoughts on that.
Yeah, I was saying there's sometimes you can do some compensatory type strategies and compensate for some impairments, right? If it's anything a little more severe, we would recommend out or refer out to a neuro-ophthalmologist. But I don't think yeah.
so.
Not for Reagan.
Yeah. No vision.
Okay. Tammy mentioned that we also give clients and families home programs. Is that something you guys can touch on?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it when John and I were speaking. So we utilized John's robust family to help with the training, primarily mom and dad, but you had a lot of support from all your siblings, whether it was trash talking you or ribbing you or whatever it was, to kind of push you to be a better driver. And we gave them things to work on, carry over from sessions. Even though Amanda did most of his training, I'm taking her answer here. But you know, we would work on introducing new components of driving, and then John would work with mom and dad on carrying those out. I can't remember. Did any of your siblings come along for any of the trainings?
My older brother, he's here actually, which is funny. The one that's closest in age with me.
Yeah.
And he wasn't too much fun because he was yapping in the back of the car the whole time, and my dad eventually just had to tell him to quiet down and let me focus. It was actually the first time that I drove with my parents like around our neighborhood, and he was like, "Let me get in the back of the car," and he was terrible. It was terrible.
Yeah.
But my sisters did go with me, and they were really nice compared to my brothers. So that was a lot more fun.
Yeah. So we've utilized, like I said, with having the releasing the specialty medical permit in Virginia to train with another licensed driver. You had quite a few licensed drivers that were willing to step in and work with you on different skills. And I'm sure you got a different perspective driving with all kinds of different people.
There's not any more questions in the chat, but we have a couple minutes. We have a few minutes if anybody else that's on right now wants to talk or has any other questions.
I just had one thought that I forgot to mention, but just something, I guess, for people who are trying to figure this out or whatever, is my parents always told me, like, when I was a kid, like, not to put any limits on your disability. So they always told me from a young age, they always put me into chores with all my other 6 siblings. They always threw me into all these things. And that just made me motivated to be more and more independent every day. And then with driving, then that led to my motivation with driving. And then with driving is, I think with Bella and Reagan here too, they can speak to this too, is just start early, because the process takes a really, really long time. And if your kid is a teenager who's really excited about all these things and is impatient like I am, then they're going to be kind of annoying to have to like tell them to be patient all the time. So just start early, so then they're done by the time all their friends are done. So
Thank you.